Hi, I'm Ed Hopkins, and I head up the executive search practice at Executive Transformetrics. We're here today to give you some insight as to how we approach a search. And in our minds, we are very concerned about hiring the whole person. It's rather easy for us to determine from a client what their requirements are with respect to technical skills or skills in general, education, experience. Those things tend to be fairly straightforward and in some ways boilerplate. The more important thing about hiring the whole person is understanding the culture of the organization and how any candidate might fit in successfully into that culture. And what we're going to do is kind of role play a little interview that we would do normally with a hiring manager or a VP of HR at one of our client companies to get more insights about the culture of a company. And I'm going to be doing that with Russell Glover.
Okay. Hi, Ed.
Russell, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Well, I appreciate the time. I know this is kind of an unusual type of meeting. But as I think I described over the phone, our approach is to make sure that we have all the information we need before we begin a search to make it as successful as possible, as efficient as possible.
Yep.
And as I've told you, we pretty much understand what your requirements are with respect to skills and education, experience, those things.
Yeah.
What is really important to us so that we can hire the right candidate and present the right candidates to you is for us to have a good understanding about the culture of an organization and about your company's culture so that we can make sure that this person or persons that we present to you will fit logically into that culture and it won't be a disappointment. Maybe something that would not be apparent in the beginning that will become apparent down the road. As I said to you on the phone, you're not going to see anyone in this candidate search that can't do the job. We're going to make sure they all have the skills.
Right.
What we cannot be sure of, unless we understand the culture better, is that they're going to be a good cultural fit for the organization. So that's the purpose of our meeting.
Yeah, well, that's good. I think when you and I spoke on the phone the other day, I think I told you that the incumbent we have in the job right now technically has been fine. But you know, I think where he and we are not as satisfied as in that sort of, we'll call it the fit factor.
Right. Well, just let's start there. Tell me a little bit about how you would describe the culture at this company.
Okay. Well, you've probably looked at our website and our materials and all. You know, we're a 147-year-old company. For about the first 50 years, the company was family run. And the original founders were Quakers. So I would say that even today, there are vestiges of that in our culture, that we are, you know, we're very much a for-profit company, but we contribute to a lot of humanitarian things. We support a lot of charities. We're very much involved in the community. So that's one aspect of it. But I think beyond that, I have often referred to our company as a very affiliative kind of company. We're, you know, without pushing this too far, we value people liking each other and wanting to work together and things like that. And it's especially important at the senior executive level. The position, as you know, is the VP of Marketing, and that position sits on the executive committee of the company. So, you know, we have a particular culture, I think, where we've tried to have a particular culture on our executive committee, and that's where the fit factor really becomes critical.
Tell me a little bit more about the incumbent, because I understand he's still here.
Yeah.
And there must be some things other than his technical performance that has caused this decision.
You know, the history of it is he's been here maybe, I think, 13 months now. And, you know, we were deliberately looking for someone who had a lot of other experience. The average tenure in jobs at our company is 13 years. And the marketing team right now are all homegrown people. So they basically come up through the ranks. And they're good people, but they don't have that sort of broad perspective that someone that had worked at multiple companies might have. So we were looking for that. And I have to say, you know, the person we're talking about delivered that in spades. He was exactly right. We needed an infusion of some fresh blood and fresh perspectives. Where I don't think, though, it was a good match was more on the softer side of things. So, for instance, you know, the people that we have, they may have a more limited perspective, but they know their customers very well. They've been calling on them for many years. I think he came in a bit with an attitude of discounting their perspective on things. Mm-hmm. So that was one problem. The more critical problem, I think, at the executive committee level, though, was that our CEO really tries to foster a culture that when you go into that room and you're part of the executive committee, you take off your functional hat. Now, obviously, you know, people have different areas of expertise, but you know, it's a group where I can challenge the finance guy if it doesn't make sense to me, or he can challenge me on HR issues or whatever. So it's very collaborative that way, and I think that was a different kind of culture than this person really was familiar with. And we found him to be not only working often in silos, but even competitive with some of the other functions, particularly the sales, VP of sales, and he had some conflict.
So this is not just something that's at one level of the organization. It's not just at the executive committee level or at a peer level or a subordinate level. It seems like it's throughout the whole.
Yeah, I think it's probably magnified at the executive level. The higher up you go, it becomes even more critical. So, but we know that we have a strong culture, I think, and that's a good thing, but it also makes it more difficult sometimes for people to integrate into it.
So it's at all levels, but which is worse than it being at one or the other, because you can usually work on that and fix it. But let me ask you, the candidate that comes in here and is going to be successful. Yeah. How would you describe the measures of success? How would you measure their success? Not from, I mean, I know this is it's obviously a for-profit company, and everybody knows no matter what you're selling or delivering, it's bottom line, top line.
Right.
Maybe not in that order, but yeah, I guess it is in that order. But what other things would be measures of success that this candidate could look towards, so that we can look for those things that would help them be successful in those areas, and maybe coach them a little bit,
right,
to work on those areas?
Well, like just about every for-profit company in the world, you've got to make your numbers, right? I mean, that's the bottom line, literally and figuratively, right, the whole thing. So that, I don't want to give you the idea that we're not interested in making money. We clearly are. That's necessary but not sufficient, I think, to be successful. The other part of the equation that's important is that you're doing it in a collaborative way with other people. You're not competitive. You're not at the end of the year saying, look at what marketing produced and sales dropped the ball, or finance didn't do their job, or that sort of thing. We all, again, especially